And we are back to talk about some more Oklahoma Sooners recruiting after it seems like they're kind of starting to get hot on the recruiting trail and maybe through the transfer portal. They currently hold the #1 ranking there. I am joined today by Jay Smith with Unfair Sports. Jay, tell everybody hi and where they can find you.
What's going on, everybody? Thanks, PG, for having me as usual. Jay Smith, Unfair Sports. Just search for us on YouTube. We'll be there. Love to have you over. And while you're here, please hit that like, subscribe, and the bell notification. Show PG some of that love as usual.
Yes, please show me the love. Go ahead and hit that for us. And go ahead and do that on Jay's videos too. It helps us out and helps us beat that dang algorithm. So now maybe if I talk about it, maybe the algorithm works against me. I don't know, but
yeah, we'll see. That's a good point.
Yeah, let's go ahead and let's just jump right into it. So Oklahoma lands not one but two commitments. They land the McCullough brothers, and listen, this is a huge pickup. Not necessarily, I don't think, on the Day side. I think Day is still going to be really good for Oklahoma and a really good future player. But definitely on the, and I'm probably going to get the name wrong. Is it Dason or Dasan?
It's Dasan, like duh and son. Yeah, Dasan. Dasan McCullough.
I've heard it both ways, so I'm just like, you know what? But Dasan McCullough, I think, is going to end up being probably one of the best pickups, whether it's out of the recruiting rankings this year or the transfer portal for Oklahoma. As you know, he's being a guy that's compared to an Isaiah Simmons type player, or he's going to flourish really well in Venable's scheme and coming in and providing a lot of depth. So, what are you thinking here on the recent commitments?
Yeah, so the brothers were two that I was high on. If you're checked out my channel, you've seen me talk about them ad nauseum, mainly because there's so much potential there immediately. So like you mentioned, Dasan McCullough is a second-team freshman All-American, which tells you as a freshman this past season, he was a force to be reckoned with. So that means that he's an impact player that can play right now. Not tomorrow, not next year, not 2 years, right now. So once he comes in spring ball and starts playing in the fall, you're going to see him on the field. And that's huge, especially because Dasan can play at all three phases of the game. And I've talked about this, like I said, ad nauseum. He can be there at the edge. He can go back at the linebacker position, and then he can also play at safety. So in that cheetah role, going into coverage and also being a force on the edge side and setting the edge as well as pursuing the quarterback, that's a big deal at the speed and power that he has. I mean, it's kind of like thinking about how Micah Parsons being leveraged by the Dallas Cowboys. Coming from Penn State, he was a linebacker. He focused on that. But when they was like, hey, man, you want to go try and get the quarterback? And he was like, okay, cool. And guess what? He's been great at it. And Dasan was one of those as a freshman coming in. When they started doing that, you started to see the pursuit and the potential of him immediately. And so grabbing him and then getting his younger brother, Day McCullough, and I think the one thing about Day is if you look at his size, 6'2", 200 pounds already, that's a huge frame for someone coming out of high school. So that means he's borderline ready to play today. And so getting him in Schmitty's system, he may drop probably 10 pounds from getting all the conditioning and stuff, but you can tell that his frame can handle more size. So he may end up being in the 220 range at safety. So imagine someone that sizey with his speed and agility still leveling folks going across the middle. Huge pickup with both of them, and there's nothing but potential going down the line. So I'm stoked they were able to get both of them. Their dad is a coach at Notre Dame, and that's another big deal. I mean, Dasan went to Indiana because his dad was at Indiana. Dad leaves and goes to Notre Dame. You would have thought they were going to follow him, and no, they decided to do their own thing. And so that shows you the trust they have in Jay Valai and the staff being able to groom them into potential NFL prospects. So I think that we got something special when we snatched those two up.
Yeah, no, we got something really special, right? And especially with Dasan in his height and his length, originally coming in and looking like what we were going to have with the big safety, but moving on to the defensive edge and someone who you could definitely see playing that cheetah role here in Venable's scheme and moving to that linebacker room and giving a little bit more depth there where Oklahoma has really struggled, in my opinion. And I think you would probably agree with me there. So really huge pickup here. And again, like you said, going to be someone that can come in and make an immediate impact. I don't see Dasan staying maybe more than 2 years, though. I think
Yeah.
that he's probably 2 more years and he's in the NFL.
Yeah, he's gone by his junior year. I mean, he'll be someone that'll be rated so high if he continues to transition up like he's doing. Like he's ticking up very fast, and he's being noticed a lot in just the recruiting world as far as in the scouting world for the NFL. So because like you just mentioned, at his size at 6'5", 220, 230, he's probably 250 by this point. That's something that, I mean, you can't teach height and length. You really can't. That's something that's just natural. And then he adds the speed and strength to go with it. Yeah, the teams in the league want him. And so, yeah, I don't see him lasting more than 2 years, barring injury, knock on wood. If he's healthy, he's gone right, I'd say, after he hits his junior year.
Yeah, and moving on from these two commitments, Oklahoma got a pretty interesting crystal ball today from the man, the myth, the legend himself, Steve Wiltfong, in Tahsily Akana. And this has been somebody that Oklahoma has been heavily pursuing for a while now. And this has been a recruitment that's kind of been hard to nail down and where we think he could potentially end up. You see, he takes that official visit to Texas. He has actually been to A&M multiple times. He took an unofficial on June 6th and went back on November 4th for an official. But right before that, he had the official visit with Oklahoma and LSU with Jamar Cain. You would expect Jamar Cain is going to be pushing for that late, but it looks like these in-home visits are really starting to line up for Venables, as I think he has already went and saw Akana. So what's your thoughts here? Do you think Oklahoma lands Akana? Do you think they move him to the linebacker position or put him at the edge?
That's a good question. I think the question with Akana is going to be, what does he look like? What does he look like size wise when the season comes up? And seeing that he's been fonged to Oklahoma, that's a really good thing. On3 has him predicted to go to Oklahoma as well. So overall, at being a top 105 player in the country, and Brent Venables, this being the guy that he recruited, this is exclusively his dude. I see him coming. I also see him probably playing more in the linebacker role. Someone that can potentially shift from linebacker to the edge. Situations where, we run the 3-3-5. Situations where you can have the 3 down lineman and you bring him up to where he's like in a 0 technique instead of having to go down into a 3. I can see that more so being the play. I don't see him being at one spot. I see him transitioning back and forth between the two phases on the defensive side. And hopefully he gets us an announcement soon. I'm not sure. Does he even have an announcement date yet?
He does not. This is one that I think a lot of people are expecting to go all the way up to National Signing Day.
Oh, gosh. I was hoping that he'd be an early enrollee, but I totally get it. You do your thing, my man. I am not knocking you for it. I was hoping that you did have like an announcement day, though.
Hint, hint. Yeah, when you look at Tahsily Akana and, you look at not only his offer sheet, but the fact and the idea that Brent Venables is going after this guy himself. Like, Venables doesn't have a secondary recruiter here. This is all Venables' game. And if Venables is going after a guy by himself, then obviously he sees a lot of potential there, and he sees, what this guy could potentially be at the next level. And that's really exciting. And, you really see that with a lot of the other teams that have been trying to get in on this recruitment, including, a team that you love and keep dear to your heart in Tennessee. I know they would love to potentially get this guy as well, but Akana,
yeah, Tennessee ain't got no chance on this guy. Like you said, Venables is doing this exclusively, so this is his guy. He wants him bad.
Yeah, and we talked about Dasan potentially moving to that cheetah role. Interesting enough, I think Akana could be a guy that could be a rotational piece for the cheetah, and basically go to the edge and rotate into the cheetah position because he's got that speed, and he's got decent height and length to be able to play that position, especially in maybe like of a 3-4 defense. And so I'm curious to see how Venables is going to use Akana in that career, and I'll be curious to see if he's coming in day one and potentially making a start or an impact for the Sooners. So
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked to see Akana put that commitment out there and come on down to Norman, Oklahoma from Utah and make an impact. And like you said, he'll probably play. To me, he'll play he'll play probably both linebacker and edge, and they'll probably just move him back and forth. He has the frame for it. 6'4", 2.25. They can put another 25 pounds on him, and he, like I said, and if he can maintain his speed, he'll be at both sides. He'll be at both phases.
yeah. But let's transition to a little bit to some not so good news for the Sooners. They miss out on the 4-star cornerback, 6 foot, 165-pound dude out of New Caney, Texas, CJ Blocker, who really was starting to pick up a lot of steam on the recruiting trail, getting offers from USC, TCU, Michigan State, Kentucky, Alabama, Colorado. He was committed to Utah, decommitted, and has now recently confirmed his commitment. I guess no longer potentially taking that official visit to USC or Colorado. I know they were both fighting for that last spot.
Mm-hmm.
CJ Blocker was a guy that I think OU was really hopeful they could go out there and get. He's got tremendous speed, running that 10.62 on the 100 meters. So, definitely one of the faster guys in this class. What does this loss potentially look like for you, for CJ Blocker and the Sooners?
I don't think it's that big of a loss for them. He kind of came late in the recruiting game for the Sooners, just someone kind of looking at and more so probably feeling out. I know that there's a few players that we have been looking at and we're waiting to get responses for, and I believe that Blocker was one of those that we noticed him. We noticed that he was rising. And we was like, let's go see if he truly has interest. And of course he did, but at the same time, I think his heart was still, of course, at Utah, hence why he went ahead and went back after decommitting, and seeing them perform the way they did in the Pac-12 championship, winning their second in a row. For him was probably like, yeah, they'll probably develop me the way that I want to be developed, and that's the direction I'm going to go. I'm honestly surprised that Colorado didn't make a bigger push for him, to get him up there in Boulder with Coach Prime and his staff. But it made sense since he had already had an initial commitment there to stick there, especially if the coaches walked in there and said, look, we got you. We're going to make sure you're taken care of. So I don't think it's a big loss. There's a lot of other players that the Sooners still have offers out there for. But at the same time, I mean, of course, it's always nice to try to be like Pokemon and catch them all, but you're not. It's not a situation where you're going to catch all of them. And he's just one of them that we threw our ball a little late into the game, and probably more so because we're still working a lot of pieces. Honestly, I felt like that offer was more of a strategic play against some players that we're offering currently to kind of get them to either, piss or get out the pot, if you want me to be lack of better terms.
Listen, I'll just say it. Peyton Bowen's been playing a game with the Sooners, holding out that commitment, and I believe the Sooners potentially know where that is going to land. I feel like the staff kind of gets an idea. And CJ Blocker, I think, was that filler spot, but it would have been nice to have him as well and get more depth on the defensive side of the ball because I just think that's a spot where Oklahoma really could improve in this class. But as we start to look at the transfer portal, because there's a lot going on here and there's a lot of really good guys that are entering the portal. I think one of the most notable ones that actually hit today was Kamari Rogers out of the University of Miami, the 4-star cornerback. OU's got a lot of options for the pickings and who they could go out there and get. I'm not in favor of us going out and getting Denver Harris, the 4-star cornerback out of A&M. I just don't think he really fits the culture, especially what he had at A&M. I do believe everybody deserves a second chance, but especially with the OU's trying to do and change the culture so fast, I don't know if Denver Harris fits right away. But you got guys like Ventrell Cypress, you got Johnny Cornelius on the offensive line out there, who recently took a visit out to Oregon, and I would be really paying attention to that one out there. What are some transfer portal names of guys that are currently in the portal, not guys that we think might in the portal, that you think OU could be really out there targeting or should basically go out there and grab?
I mean, to be honest, they need to go ahead and go after the brothers Justin Flo and Jonathan Flo. And we talked about this in the green room. Justin was one that Venables did a solo recruiting act with when he was at Clemson, and Flo was really heavily considering Clemson at the time. And back then in 2020, he was a top 6 player in the country. He's the number 6 player ranked, number 1 inside linebacker. And so that's somebody that, I mean, I could totally see the Sooners, reaching out to, trying to see, hey, man, what you trying to do since you're now officially in the portal from Oregon? And then, of course, it's probably a package deal. So you're probably going to get the little brother as well, who's at Oregon as well. He was a top 324 star in the composite in 21 class. So he's a safety. You'll get another linebacker. So it'll kind of be like the McCullough brothers. You have the Flo brothers right next to each other. So you may as well try to see if you can leverage that family dynamic. I think that will be a really good pickup if there's anybody. Because, we talked about this in the past, and you talked about this on numerous occasions as well. If you pay attention to what this Sooner staff is doing, the offensive side, that's how it was recruited very well by the last regime. The defensive side was always the question mark. And it was more of a not if they were talented enough, but if they had the ability to execute on complex defensive sets. And we haven't really seen it fully yet. We've seen glimpses. And so that's why it looks like Venables and them is really focused heavily on getting defensive players. This right here, if you get the Flo brothers to go along with the McCulloughs, you've just about flipped your entire defense around, and adding Lacey on the defensive line and some of the other defensive players they're probably going to go after. I really think that these two would be a perfect setup for the Sooners to take a stab at, as well as Fred Davis II over there at Clemson, who just entered the transfer portal as well. Might as well start going out some of the guys they were going for when I was at Clemson. Why not do it?
Clemson's got a lot of guys already in the transfer portal that I think are pretty interesting. You said Fred Davis being one of those. Definitely Sergio Allen, another linebacker. And I'll go ahead and drop this because it's not anything that's a secret. It's not like new news, but if Barrett Carver hits the transfer portal from Clemson, which I'm not 100% sure that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. Not confident at all. But if it is, Oklahoma is definitely an option to watch there. And I just want you to think about what this linebacker room is going to look like after what it looked like this last season, because this staff said, this philosophy and idea that we wanted to adapt of not really taking guys out of the portal, that ain't going to work. We got
it's good. No. It's not gonna work.
It's adapt or die, and you see them adapting really quick, taking Dasan McCullough out of there, going after Justin Flo, which we believe that's down between Oklahoma and Miami right there. Which for those of you who don't know, Miami, Mario Cristobal got Justin Flo up there anyway, so that's going to be a battle. But like you said, Venables has an existing relationship there. We talked about Sergio Allen from Clemson already in the portal. All those guys are great options. And like I said, if Barrett Carver hits the portal and you land all of those guys but one, all of a sudden that linebacker room becomes really competitive. And I love Danny Stutzman, and you might jump on me for this one. I know some other people might too, but Danny might lose his job as a linebacker, just what they take in the transfer portal, especially if Carver hits that portal. I think that's a big option. So.
No, that makes sense. And you're not wrong. I think the bigger play when it comes to Stutzman, what would help him keep his job is he's going to have to be able to adapt to the plays that burn him on a regular basis. Now, we saw that against Iowa State, how he was burnt on a slant play, and then moments later, he recognized that he was burnt on said slant play, and then he went ahead and got an interception a few plays later because he recognized it was coming. That's got to be consistent. And teams were exploiting that this entire season on him. Even in his games where he was getting 10 to 15 tackles, there was moments where they were catching him basically with his pants down. And that's more of just adapting to a new system. That doesn't mean that he doesn't know what he's doing as a player. It's more just adapting to understanding your assignment, but then adjusting your assignment when you recognize that your area is no longer being occupied. And so there is a chance he could lose it. I mean, players come in there and they adapt quickly. and they have a stronger instinct. I just don't think that Stutzman has a super strong instinct. I just think that he's a really good player and he works hard. I just don't think that he has the instinct. It's kind of like the Tyrann Mathieu piece when he was at LSU as well as in the NFL. Kind of undersized, just a guy that just. But the thing about him is he was all over the place and he knew how to get there. And then you look at Jaren Kanak. The one thing about him is he doesn't. They mentioned that he doesn't know how to play linebacker yet, right? Like he said, he doesn't really know what he's doing. And
but when he's out there, he's so talented.
But you wonder that. You're like, well, what do you mean? Well, you don't know what he's doing. But then you'll see busted plays. You're like, oh, he doesn't have that full instinct yet. He's just athletic as hell. And so that's what you hope that you get Stutzman to pick up on. So I think him, Kanak, and as well as bringing in some additional linebackers will help people speed up their ability because, iron sharpens iron, and that's the one thing they had to do with Alabama. And so, yeah, that I think there's a good chance he could lose his job if he doesn't adapt quickly once these new players come in.
Yeah, and you've heard Danny admit it himself, right? He doesn't hit the film room as much as he thought he did, or as he should, when Venables asked him about that. So, with the talent that would be potentially coming in, right? Whether it's in the linebacker room, the defensive line, or the backfield, it literally is going to push guys out because they know they're gonna lose their starting position because they don't have what it takes, or it's going to make them a better player overall because they don't want to lose that starting spot. And like you said, iron sharpens iron. They're gonna see that competition there. As of in a lot of these rooms right now for Oklahoma, there's not necessarily as great of competition to keep these guys moving forward. So it's going to be something to watch, especially on the linebacker side of things. But another position that I'm really interested in for the Sooners and what I want to see them do and potentially go and attack in the portal is the offensive line. So you lose Wanye Morris, Chris Murray, you're losing Anton Harrison to the transfer portal. There are plenty of good options when it comes to the offensive line. You've got the Logan Parr from the University of Texas. You have Johnny Cornelius from Rhode Island, the number 1 ranked offensive lineman in the transfer portal right now. Javian Cohen is crystal ball to go to Miami, but you got Miles Hinton out of Stanford. What direction do you think Bill Bedenbaugh and Jeff Lebby need to take as far as the offensive line perspective for this team next year?
Man, that's a good question. It's really going to come down to who they can get, honestly, out of the transfer portal that can play today. Like when they got Matauer last year, I was pretty stoked, him and Tyler Guyton, and they produced. You saw them both play a lot of snaps and some really meaningful minutes too. And so that's really, to me, the bigger thing is who are they going to be able to snatch up in the transfer portal to try to replace some of the production that they're going to lose at a lot of Wanye Morris, who will be gone, Anton Harrison, who is definitely gone. You got to be able to build that up. And there was a player that was recently talked about coming to Oklahoma. I just had a unfortunate brain fart about him, but more so his interest in Oklahoma was because we're losing our linemen, losing our big tackles. And so it gives you an opportunity to come in and play. Let me see if I can find the name. Yeah. Marcus Dummerville, who was being recruited by us last year. And it was between us and LSU, went to LSU, and he has hit the portal. And I saw a note from the 24/7 guys around him saying that, he definitely had some interest because Oklahoma was second on his list. It was between Oklahoma and LSU ended up winning out. Well, if he comes this year in the transfer portal, there's a good chance that he could fight for a starting spot almost immediately, or at least be in the starting rotation. And so that's, to me, what you'll probably see a lot of is the players that Venables and staff was going after last year and late in the game, because, they came here in December of last year, so they didn't have truly enough time to really go after who they wanted to. But the players they were going after to come here, and some of the players they went after at Clemson, if they're hitting the portal, there's a good chance that they could try to snatch them up and bring them to Oklahoma. So I think that that's probably the way they need to go, is go after those players that they wanted before and that are currently available today.
Yeah, and the offensive line, I think, is probably one of the most underlooked positions right now by fans. I hear so much about all these other positions, but I don't hear fans talk about the offensive line, and we've actually lost quite a bit through the transfer portal. One of those being Bray Walker, just unfortunately never turned out to really be able to put it together. But you have two young freshmen that are here. Jacob Sexton and Jake Taylor. And then you've got a new freshman coming in Caden Green. And that left side is the one that needs work. And I am under the impression that Caden Green could come in and immediately take a start, especially with being an early enrollee. But I 100% agree with you. Oklahoma's got to hit the transfer portal for an offensive lineman. And I don't know who it's going to be, but they got to take probably two or three just to, one, be able to give yourself some good quality depth, but two, to be able to give yourself some starters because as we saw with Dylan Gabriel last year, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you have to put your true freshman out there or you don't have a quarterback at all in terms of a backup. So it's going to be imperative to get him some good protection this year so that Dylan Gabriel can be a little bit more comfortable in that pocket.
Yeah, and you got to remember too, like I mentioned, this staff came so late that they had to hit the portal. They hit a little bit of the portal, and the recruits were kind of late in the game. And then this year, of course, because they created the two windows, May will be the next time we can go after transfers. And after spring ball, you'll get a really good assessment of what your depth looks like, what players look like, and what things are going to look like going into the summer. So I can expect, honestly, this staff may potentially hit the May portal a lot harder than the December portal, just because they'll be you'll know truly what you're working with at that point.
Yeah, you'll know what you're working with Caden Green because, like I said, Caden Green's going to be an early enrollee, and then you'll have Jake Sexton and Jake Taylor back there as well. So,
yep, all
yeah,
these players from last year's class. So yeah, we'll probably see some of these young boys really get some game too. So good point.
yeah. So I want to move on to another interesting topic with regarding the transfer portal, and we don't have to stay here long, but the tight end position. We got Austin Stogner out of the transfer portal. He's coming back to Oklahoma. Now, this is interesting because I think Austin Stogner has the potential to be one of the best pass catchers on our team, and especially at the tight end position. But in terms of a blocker, I'm not sure if Austin Stogner is the right guy for the job there. You've got lots of other options, whether it's Llewellyn in that room. But what's your thoughts here around the tight end position for the Sooners? Do they need to go get somebody else, or are they pretty well good with what they have and what they have coming in?
I'd say you would want some depth, especially veteran type depth to come in. It all depends on whatever's going on with the Daniel Parker situation. We don't know I haven't seen any additional details. He may be off the team. He may be on the team. We don't know until something official comes out. But you'll have him potentially. But you need to add an additional piece so that Llewellyn and them can really grow in preparation to really get out there, or you just throw them out there on the field and say, hey, sink or swim, and see if they can get it. But I do think they'll hit the portal and try to get themselves at least one more tight end to add just a little bit of depth, or a player or maybe even a recruit that that could play both sides of the ball. They may even tell Cade McIntyre coming from Nebraska down and say, look, you ready to go play? Put him in there with Llewellyn and them and see who wins out and see who gets in the depth. So it may be a young position. We may add some veteran presence, but I would add an additional veteran just so that the young players have somebody to help them to compete. And if they outdo them, even better. You'll be able to start your young player and have them go out there for at least 2 more years of starter play.
Yeah. So as we start to kind of wrap some of this up, I want to move into some pretty interesting news that kind of hit today. 247 has announced a new way of doing their 5-star system, only allowing 32 5-stars in a cycle. Basically saying that the 5 stars that we analyze to be 5 stars are going to be what we would consider first-round draft picks. And I like the idea of it, but I don't think they necessarily got it right in terms of who should be a 5-star and who shouldn't. The first one being PJ Adebawore. lost his 5-star in the 247 rankings, dropped him a little bit in the composite, but not much. He's still a composite 5-star, just not a 247 5-star. I just feel like Adebawore is being disrespected by the 247 folks. I think, when you look at the best defensive players in this class, I think of Keon Keeley as more of an interior defensive lineman instead of more of an edge. I think that's where he's going to be able to be best fit. I think that's where Alabama will play him. When I think of the best edge rusher, I think of PJ Adebawore, not Mateo, not Keon Keeley. So what are your thoughts here on 247 taking away his 5-star?
So 247 dropped him to 37 from 25 on their list, but their composite moved him up to 25 from in the 30s, which I think is, of course, fascinating. But in our group chat, I talked about this, and after watching a video of him doing a front squat of over 440 pounds on a front squat, yeah, I think PJ is going to be the best player in that 23 class, even with Jackson Arnold. And I love Jackson Arnold. I'm stoked about Jackson Arnold coming in. I think PJ is going to be the best one. He's a freakish athlete, 7-foot wingspan for his size at 6'4", 240. He's already got the frame. All he's going to do is continue to put muscle on, get bigger. He's going to be stronger. He reminds me of Javon Curse. And if he goes out there and produces like Javon Curse, especially his ability to get around the tackles and get in between the tackle and guard and pursue the quarterback, yeah, I think he's going to be the best one in the class. And that's not no shade to anybody else in there. Something about that dude makes me scream out freak. And I'm waiting for Bruce Feldman's freak list next season. I can see PJ on there. There's no reason for him to not be on that list of freakish athletes that you got to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, no, PJ, he is freakish. I've seen him in person. He's huge at 6'4", 227. Definitely does not look to 6'4". He looks more probably, I'd say, like a 6'8". But listen, his hands, his hands measure in at 10 inches. 10-inch hands. That's like Kawhi Leonard look. And then he's got a 7-foot wingspan. So definitely the quarterback's trying to get away from him or get around him. It's not going to be easy for them. And then, again, with his pass rush skills and the technique that he has with his feet and his hands to be able to get around those blocks, he's a Power 5 starter right away. And he is a guy that I potentially could see as a first-round draft pick in the future.
Yeah. I agree.
So another player that he's not at Oklahoma yet, but I feel like we all fully expect him to be here at Oklahoma, Peyton Bowen, got his 5-star taken from him in the 247, which surprises me a little bit because I feel like the 247 people love Notre Dame. And that makes me feel like they know something about Peyton Bowen potentially not staying on that Notre Dame class. So Bowen is no longer a 247 5-star. He still is a 5-star in the composite rankings. But listen, I see Peyton Bowen, not the best safety in this class, but definitely top 2. I'll let you guys kind of decipher who's the number 1. But Peyton Bowen, 6 foot, 185 out of Denton Guyer, best friends with Jackson Arnold. So it's expected that, he's going to be here in Oklahoma, completely a versatile playmaker and a guy that's going to be able to go up there and just grab balls for you. What do you think about Peyton Bowen, getting his 5th star taken from him on this one?
It's 8 weeks left in the cycle. And as 247 says, players go up and down. And to be honest, the only thing to me about a 5-star does for you is just put a target on your back. It's someone to pay attention to. If you were a 5-star at one point, you're still a 5-star in my eye. And so there's no reason for me to really flip out, especially when the composites show you as a 5-star. That means that when you evaluate all 4 of the major recruiting sites from On3 to ESPN to Rivals to 24/7, and it comes together and they say, no, he's a 5-star based upon everybody's evaluation, I still give you the 5-star. Now 247, like I said, they're going to move people up and down just based upon whatever evaluation processes they have. But composite wise, until their composites drop out of 5, I don't think it's really that big of a deal.
You know what? I agree with you. It's just it's a little something to look at and
Something
be
to think about.
upset. It's something to be upset about and put a target on your back and be like, hey, listen, we're mad because Oklahoma should have more 5 stars than what they're giving us credit for. But Peyton Bowen, listen, he's got talent, and when you look at his speed, he's not necessarily there. When you look at his times and what he's ran, I think the fastest he did in his 100-meter was 11:31, and that was as a sophomore. But again, when you look at his instincts to be able to go grab the ball and his awareness in the backfield, it's definitely unmatched. And he could give a run for the number 1 spot, but I don't think he's taken the number 1 spot from Caleb Downs. But
No,
that's just my opinion.
keep this in mind. You win a national championship, nobody cares how many 5 stars you got.
That is true. That is true. Hey, but I will say the best of the best do have a bunch of 5 stars on their team.
Except for Texas A&M, who had the number 1 class, and they seem to be losing a lot of them.
That's just because Texas A&M can't get their stuff together, go coaching. So, and
I'm just saying, they're bringing in 5 stars. Don't matter if you're not going for titles. So for me, if we can do it with a whole bunch of 4 and 3 stars, I just want to play in the playoffs. Send me to the playoffs. That's all I want to see.
I just want to make it to the national championship. I don't even care about winning it right now. I just want to go to say that we were there. But yeah,
that's what's important.
Yeah, it's what's important. Last thing. So we're coming up on early signing day, 8 days away, and then we're going to be hitting the dead period. What is there a specific recruit that you would be saying that OU fans need to keep their eyes on, especially as we start doing in-home visits? I think for me, I'm really looking at Anthony Hill, and I'm saying, okay, OU was there before. Can Venables potentially get an in-home visit there and try to close a deal and keep him out of the hands of Texas?
I mean, that's a good one. Continue to look at David Hicks. I think Venables goes and see him on Thursday.
He gets the last visit. He gets the last visit too. That's something to note.
No, I don't think so. I think A&M has him on the 21st.
So they get an official with David Hicks, but in terms of in-home, he gets the last in-home.
Aha, good point. So keep that in mind, that on the in-home, Brent Venables will be there on Thursday. And that's one to keep your eyes on. Now, of course, the Hicks saga has been going just a whirlwind of media coverage, but there's a good chance that we could snatch him back up and bring him back to the Oklahoma side, because everybody had him fonged. I mean, Will Fong had him fonged to us, and everybody else really was like, "It's gonna pick Oklahoma," and then all of a sudden he decided to go with A&M. So keep that in your rear view, as well as David Stone on the 18th making an announcement. Local boy David Stone's going to make an announcement. It could be he's going to commit. It could be that he's going to reclassify and commit. It could be that he's just going to come back to Oklahoma for his senior year. Nobody knows. But I'll tell you this. If he decides to reclassify and commit, it's going to be a terrifying defensive line next season.
If he decides to reclassify and commit to Oklahoma, it's very important to note that him and David Hicks have a very good relationship. They really want to play with each other. And they want to play those two.
Yeah, imagine them both. Imagine him saying on the 18th that he's coming, he's going to reclassify and play next year, and he's going to bring somebody with him. And then David Hicks says, I'm going to join him, and he commits. And then they find a way to get Damian Sanford to join him. I know it's a pipe dream. I'm just saying that's some stuff that, could possibly happen.
You want to talk about being a recruit in a way to shake up the headlines and completely take away the headlines from Texas having this incredible class. That's a good way to do it. That's a great way to do it. So
it'll be fun.
All right. Hey, well, I appreciate you coming on, talking a little bit of OU recruiting, especially as it starts to heat up towards early signing day. Go ahead and let everybody know where they can find you again.
You can find me. Unfair Sports. Search me on Twitter. And my handle's here on the screen, as well as just searching YouTube. I'm always around. PG, appreciate you bringing me on as usual. Let's cross our fingers and toes that the good stuff comes down the line.
Yeah, let's just hope that OU ends with 6 5-stars in this class. I would be really excited, and I'm pretty sure all the OU fans would be screaming national championship at that point. So,
Exactly.
yeah. All right. Hey, well, thank you all for tuning in. If you haven't already, please go ahead, hit that like and the subscribe button. Go ahead and comment below. What do you guys think David Stone is doing coming up here on what's the date again?
I think it's December 18th.
December
Let me
18th.
check them real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, he's trying to steal the headlines on a Sunday. I'll tell you that.
Yep, December 18th. Let's see if that
All right.
Sunday is him coming to Oklahoma, because yeah, that's the day before quiet period.
Yep. All right. So go ahead. Tell us what you guys think about Stone. Do you think he is reclassifying and announcing a commitment to the University of Oklahoma?